Welcome to the Nuri Edge podcast, where we explore how to maximize productivity while taking care of your nervous system. Here we help you regulate, focus, and build resilience in today's fast paced workplaces. I'm Lacey Matthews, today's host, joined by Mariana Merritt. And in each episode, we dive into what really drives performance, leadership, and emotional intelligence, sharing real stories and practical tools you can use right away. Today, we are so excited to introduce our guest, Deidra Smith. Deidra joins us bringing her expert perspective, background, and experience, having spent almost 30 decades in human resources. Deidra has a passion for helping senior leaders meet goals through reducing turnover, retaining A players, and increasing resource ROI. So whether you're leading a team, collaborating with one, or just trying to stay centered in the chaos, take a breath, settle in, and let's get into it. Deidra, I'd love to kick us off today just hearing a bit more about your amazing background, actually. Can you tell us just a little bit more about your journey?
Yes, definitely. Well, the bulk of my experience has, of course, been in human resources. I started off in financial services, and I felt as though I was getting pigeonholed in financial services and mortgage companies and banks, and I wanted to explore what the other side of human resources was like. So I started off with the New York Times. They have a satellite office in Orland Park, Illinois. So I started off at their call center. Then I went to into banking, and then I was there for about 16 years, no, 16 to 17 years. And then I said, well, let me try out some other areas. And I went into health and wellness, cannabis, climate change, and now I'm here in higher ed, and you would be amazed at how different chart is in each industry. And it has been an amazing journey. And in doing that, I have been able to. There's knowledge of HR, but then there's experience, which is a totally different thing. And I talk to so many human resources professionals that have the education, but until you get the experiences of working with various unions, working with various personalities, working with various department heads and senior leaders, it's one thing to have the education, and then there's another thing to have the actual real world experience where you're the head of HR and COVID is happening, or you're the head of HR and the world is having a government shutdown. So it's that experience is what you have to really hone in to, and the knowledge doesn't really help with that.
Man, you bring up really valid points. That lived experience coupled with the book knowledge is what makes those transformational leaders. I think there was a funny little glitch in our intro because, ma'am, if you
I'm
really
not
have
that
30
old.
decades,
I'm not that old.
I need the focus of this
Three
podcast to
decades.
shift immediately.
Three
I'm like,
decades, not 30.
wow.
30 years.
I've been here since 3000 BC.
That's a lot of lived experience.
That
Looking
is.
fabulous the whole time.
I know. I know.
Oh, I think that was just a little typo on our end, but we need some laughter and levity in the work. So here we are.
Yeah.
Ask you along your journey, I'm sure you've seen lots of different needs. And I appreciate that you're bringing up that, yeah, there are life-changing things that happen when COVID hit. No matter who you were in HR, no matter who you were in whatever industry, more than likely there was a huge shift. I think we all learned to hate the word pivot in the midst of COVID because we were all pivoting constantly. But what can you talk to us maybe about the two top needs that you're consistently seeing in employees throughout your career or in this post-COVID life that we're living? What things emerge for you as these are things that consistently you're coaching employees or getting additional supports for?
You know what? I would say the number one need that I've seen throughout my career is the need for leadership, the need for basic management competencies. Because what I found was that there are so many managers that were put in their roles simply because they were a great salesperson, or simply because they were in their operational role for a long time and they were promoted into leadership, but they're really not leaders. They are people who did amazing at their job in sales, but they don't have the aptitude or the attitude or the competencies to be a great transformational leader or a great servant leader. And that is the common thread that I've seen in every industry that I've been in. And it is because there is no intervention. You can't just automatically assume that someone will be a great leader and know how to have a conversation and know how to coach and know how to counsel and meet with their employees at least once a month and give their employees face time. That is so necessary, but you would be amazed at the number of leaders or people leaders in high ranking roles that like to communicate through email. So they'll just every communication is through email. There's not a common human connection. And that's where you build trust. That's where you build the culture and how you communicate. And I've seen that that is one thing that is lacking in every industry. Now,
Man,
some companies
Mhm.
got it. It's they have it to a T. They have mastered it, but some companies they have to really work on providing some sort of leadership training, leadership academy in order to get there.
I think you are spot on. I think if people are listening to the audio of this, you are missing out on our heads looking like bobbleheads. And I imagine that if we could see you as listeners, we would be seeing the Amen choir real strong right now because that is such a common experience that you have a high performing individual contributor who really knocks it out of the park in their role. And then it's a natural assumption to say, let's put this person in charge of others. Let's let them lead. If they can replicate what they're doing, but those skills, I love the way that you identified that the skills for being an individual contributor are vastly different than the skills of leading, training, mentoring, coaching others to replicate your results. That's something that we're really passionate about, actually, is figuring out how to empower individual contributors and leaders to sharpen those skills. Nuri Edge, we like the play on words there, that you have to sharpen that edge, that it's not a skill set that just comes naturally and that you need a safe space to develop that skill, to practice it. And so we love the use case right now of AI providing that scaffolded support so that you can chat and get immediate coaching and immediate access to, should this be an email or should this be a conversation? I need to communicate this feedback. How is it going to read in an email versus if I have a water cooler conversation with you? That coaching being available immediately to people, we feel strongly, makes a huge difference in developing that leadership confidence and getting, I love what you said at the beginning too, that it's those years of lived experience that don't transfer automatically. And so we think about, how does AI come alongside humans to support that? That if you are a new leader, can AI really bolster and kind of stand in the gap of those, like, you don't have the lived experiences yet, but you have dedicated expertise that you can bounce ideas off immediately and get the good guidance that you shouldn't give the harsh feedback in an email, that should be a conversation, maybe with HR or maybe just a coaching conversation, but nonetheless, that human touch. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Along those same lines, I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you see the function of I feel like there's different words that we use around it, but culture, climate, connection. How do you see culture, climate, connection as an impact on productivity in the workplace?
I believe that culture, climate, and connection is that perfect storm that it's sort of like when you have a seed and you want it to grow and you need water, you need dirt, you need some sunlight. And culture, climate, and connectivity, those are those nutrients that you need in order to increase productivity. So I would say that in order to have a productive workforce, those three factors are paramount.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I say that because when the culture is not quite right, or you have some toxicity in it, or if there's no connection between employee to employee, a small connection between employee and manager, if the climate just is not where it should be, that leaves room for employees and staff to create their own narratives on what is happening in workplace. So if you aren't being transparent, if you're not being open and sharing information as much as you can, and that's that water cooler talk that they will have that will fill in the blanks. Now, if the culture is right and you're sharing and you're giving information, you're transparent, and they trust you as an employer, then they don't have to worry about that. So they won't go to the water cooler as much and have fill in those blanks as much, and then that will allow that growth, that productivity to increase, those relationships to build, and it would be an overall win-win for the employer and the employee.
Really solid insights. I feel like your 30 decades of experience are really shining brightly here because that was so insightful. It's is spot on that unless people are feeling safe and connected, they will fill in the blanks perhaps with their deepest fears, perhaps with the things that are not at all happening in the organization, but are easy for their nervous system to create stories that make them feel like I am unsafe, so I need to protect myself. I need to be looking for what could be coming up, as opposed to really leaning into a safe culture and climate that says, you belong here, we work together, we do good work together. I love, again, we think about that a lot around how do we kind of serve up 60 to 90-second strategies for people to regulate their nervous system. My background is in social psychology, and I think about the humans a lot because we're fascinating creatures, right? Our minds can create all kinds of stories. But if we are able to take that moment of pause, if we are able to get a prompt that says, how else could you be telling this story? What else might be happening that kind of disrupts us from going down that path of worst case scenarios or hyping ourselves up with fear and being able to regulate our nervous system? We see tremendous positive outcomes when people are able to not get hijacked by their nervous system, but instead have really easy to do strategies that helps them regain control, rebalance themselves, and then engage with others in really productive ways. And we know humans, we're tricky, right? I might pass you in the hallway and you might have something on your mind about the dog needing to go out at home and somebody not being home to let the dog out. You may not be thinking of me at all, but if I pass you down the hallway and you don't say good morning, I immediately might think, well, why didn't HR greet me good morning this morning? It
Mhm.
is easy for humans to derail ourselves with
Yeah,
a fear story and to take it the wrong way. And so, again, this is
that's so
where
true.
lived observation, experience, and our passion for supporting people well comes intertwined in our platform, where we think, okay, so give people a safe space to talk about that so that exactly what you said, they don't take it to the water cooler.
I have perfect examples of that. People have come into my office saying, "My manager didn't speak to me this morning. Do you think I'm getting laid off? Do you think I'm getting fired? What's going on? What should I do?" And I say, "You know what? Calm down. It's okay. It's okay. They are dealing with something that you have no knowledge of. I'm aware of it because they shared it with me, but it has nothing to do with you." So that is so true. That is so true.
Well, we are so grateful for your time today and for this brief conversation. It's hard to keep these conversations brief if I'm transparent because it's so rich. Thank you for offering your insights, your lived experiences, the things, the wealth of knowledge that you've accumulated. Thank you for sharing them with us today. This has been a really valuable conversation as we consider how do we support humans with productivity? How do we juggle the aspects of business needs, human needs, and what are the intersections there? I just think this was a really great conversation. So thank you so much for joining us today for that.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love the space that you provide to speak about some things that don't get enough attention. Some of those in between the lines type of scenarios. So I appreciate the opportunity.
I second the gratitude that Mariana shared. Thank you so much for joining us, Deidra. We hope everyone has enjoyed today's episode of the Nuri Edge. We would love to connect with you further. Please reach out to us at nuriedge.ai if you're curious about how we can support your team.